I was diagnosed at 14 years old, so quite young. Sport was a big part of my life, and obviously all the kind of questions that come up when you kind of get diagnosed with something like that, and just the unknown of what my future would look like and whether I would still be able to kind of progress my cricket and sort of get to where I am now. So obviously that was all very uncertain, and went through a long process with doctors and stuff to kind of work out what it all meant and how my life might sort of change, I guess. I had about a 6-month period where I kept going to the doctors, with really bad stomachache, really tired. Like, I remember coming back from school and just being exhausted, which didn't feel like normal tiredness, it felt different. You go to the doctors with a stomachache and they say, don't eat, that we've got bigger things to worry about. You kind of keep having to go back, and then you get some blood tests done, and I think my iron levels came back really low and very anemic, and that obviously explained why I was so tired. I had a colonoscopy camera to see what was going on in my insides. It showed that I had Crohn's. Probably was 6 to 9 months of that kind of stuff, and then I guess the next 6 to 9 months are kind of working through some different treatments. I remember the first bit of treatment I had was going on an 8-week liquid diet, so no food. All the calories are sort of broken down for you, so it gives you a kind of insides a rest from kind of trying to digest food, and that's what wasn't happening. I actually put on a lot of weight through having these drinks, weight that I'd lost beforehand from being ill. I think I spent most of my time sort of thinking about what my first meals were going to be back. After that diet I was good, and then kind of regressed again. I went on to kind of a steroid for 8 weeks along with the azathioprine. Felt better, same again, and it took a few times to kind of really get kind of a grip of it and sort of stop it coming back. I'd take these injections. It does make your immune system weaker. I have one every week. Little things that in the past maybe wouldn't have affected me or wouldn't affect the normal healthy person. I've learned to kind of work with it rather than try and fight against it, listening to how it's feeling, and if I do need to kind of pull back a little bit, especially in training, obviously save what I all my energy for games. So it is hard for me to kind of do that, but I think at times it's really important. Ultimately, if I'm performing in games, that's what the teams I'm playing for need from me. So yeah, I kind of very open with the coaches about my condition, and I guess them being aware really helps. So I always say to people who also struggle with the same sort of things, is like to let who you work with know, and not think that you need to hide that. The coach is trying to pick their strongest team, and if you kind of show an element of weakness, that could maybe affect them. But I mean, I think again, it's not just about saying, I'm not going to train today. If you give them a background of actually information and understand that, because I feel like even if there's any weaknesses physically that Crohn's and the medication that I'm on has given me physically, I feel like mentally I make up for that, because I've had to be more kind of disciplined, determined. If you trust the people that you're working with, then you feel like you can be more open for sure. And obviously, the more you feel you belong then to that environment, then you feel like you can probably open up that a little bit more. But I mean, I went through a long period from maybe once I got it under control at sort of 16 years old, I would say, from then to about 26, 27, I didn't actually have any issues, and I wasn't on medication. So I had a long period there where and that was probably the same period where I am trying to get my first contract and get in the England team and all that kind of thing. And then actually once I've been in the England team, I'm back on medication. Obviously it's something that I've got used to, and I think I'm dealing with it pretty well. I do notice around big games that I maybe suffer a little bit more with my symptoms. I just again have to be really strict on foods and certain ones that I know can maybe trigger it a little bit more. But yeah, I think stress can cause it to be a little bit worse. But yeah, I think I have regular bloods, and I had regular bloods through that period where I was really good as well. So, and I guess those showed that I needed to go on some medication. The first part is quite scary because it's the unknown of what it kind of changes in your life, what's going to be the future. Speaking to doctors, understanding what I was dealing with, and doctors were great at making me feel like it wasn't going to make a big change to my life and there was no reason why cricket couldn't still be a massive part of my life. Being open and honest with people around you so they had an awareness of it. I think the big thing for me with the condition is to listen to how you're feeling, listen to your body, and not to kind of try and fight the disease, but work with it. Really important for me is to accept it, accept what I've got, and kind of make the best of it, and actually use it to kind of, certain things I'll be weaker at, but other, mentally I can learn a lot from dealing with a condition like this, and you learn a lot about discipline and determination and patience, always trying to make negatives into positive. I think that's what we try and do a lot in sport, so it's something that I try and bring to that part of my life as well. It was November 2019, so I played the Ashes in the summer. Then we went to New Zealand in October, November time, and played the first test. And then I got left out of the second test, and it was the first day of the game, and I did 12th man that day. Went back to the hotel, and I went out with one of the other guys who was doing 12th man, and we had some food. I had a chicken burger. Went back to the hotel that night, woke up in the night and felt like I had food poisoning. That's what it felt like. Being sick, diarrhea, all the rest of it. Felt like I had a really bad temperature. It was kind of a few hours after that I would have eaten, so it felt like it was probably something to do with that. I tried to get through the night, obviously, and then we've got an England doctor who was with us on that tour, and I contacted him first thing in the morning saying, I don't think I'm going to be able to come in today. I think I've got food poisoning. He came to my room that morning and gave me some paracetamol, ibuprofen, took my temperature, and said, yeah, you need to stay here. Progressively through the day, I just started to feel worse and worse. And it's all a bit of a blur looking back, but I do, like, thinking about it, feels weird, some of the things that I was doing, I guess. Like, I remember being crouched over on the bed in a really weird position, like, because I was just, like, I was getting some really bad pain, like round my back. My whole body was aching, I was sweating. I was in that hot, cold, feverish kind of state. And if I was to have any water, it would just come straight back up. So I couldn't get tablets down me or anything. And I remember having a few text messages with the doctor throughout the day. He had gone to the ground. I was trying to convince him that I was in quite a bad state in the end. And I think I ended up sort of being like, I'm gonna call for an ambulance if, like, because I could just tell something wasn't right. Like, it didn't, for a very long period through the night and that morning, it had felt like just a fever and sickness and bug. And then really quickly it started to feel like something different. I managed to convince him that he needed to come back, and he came back. He came to my room. I crawled to the door, opened the door, and they were like, oh, okay, this isn't good. They got a wheelchair up, got me in the wheelchair, got me down in the lift, and then as soon as I got out into the car park of the hotel car park, I was really bad, like really sick. They got me into a van and they were going to take me to a medical centre, and got to the medical centre, sick again when I got there, and then I went into the medical centre. I was lying on this bed, and another doctor came to see me, took my blood pressure, my heart rate. The heart rate was really high, and the blood pressure was really low. And I remember the doctor going out with the England doctor to speak outside the room. And I remember in that room being on my own for, like, it felt like a while, but it was probably not very long. And I remember thinking, don't fall asleep. Like everything, I wanted to fall asleep. But something in me was like, don't fall asleep, like you won't wake up. Obviously afterwards getting told that it was sepsis and that is, that's not good and can be life-threatening. So they rushed me to hospital then from the medical centre. Got a drip put in one arm and antibiotics in the other. And obviously because I hadn't been able to get any water in or anything. So within half an hour, I just thought, I'm gonna be all right. Because as soon as I had that, it just felt completely different. And I was still pretty ill at that point, but compared to where I'd felt half an hour ago, I felt good to play a test match. But I just thought, I'm gonna be all right. And I spent 2 days, because it was sepsis, I think I had to spend the next 2 days in hospital. And it was pretty scary times. There was definitely a moment where I felt like things weren't going in the right direction. I'd never heard of sepsis, to be honest, but I remember the doctor mentioning sepsis. It was kind of a relief, really, at that point, because I just knew that I was going to be all right now, and it was like a relief that I felt like I wasn't complaining about nothing, that it was something that, was quite serious. It was more that kind of fevery feeling, hot, cold, and this sweating a lot and real bad pain in my kind of side and back, and just could not being able to get comfortable. It felt very different in terms of I couldn't just lie down. I needed to kind of get in these weird positions to try and just be comfortable. I think even sort of telling my story today, you kind of realise how much of it is a bit of a blur because you're so out of it, if that makes sense. Definitely had that moment in the medical centre where I didn't want to fall asleep. Kind of makes you realise how serious it is. So that's what kind of made me feel like I needed to reach out to the doctor and get someone. It was like all the kind of symptoms that I've explained were just getting worse and worse. I'd say the thing about it feels like it picks up pace quite quickly. So it was kind of slow to start with. I reckon over 2 hours it really picked up pace. 2 days in hospital. When I left hospital, I felt way better than obviously where I'd come from. The thing about it was just at the end of the tour, so it was unsure whether I'd be able to leave at the same time as the lads. But I was able to kind of show enough good signs in hospital that I could leave hospital and go home. But got home, and then we only had a week at home, and then we were actually going to South Africa for a tour out there. So I think as a professional sportsman, you're always thinking about what the next thing is, and you probably don't give it enough respect to what you've kind of been through. I was just desperate to play and get back in the team and play in South Africa. And looking back, that was not right, really. Went out to South Africa. A few of the lads picked up a cough. The doctor out there, they were trying to work out why people weren't recovering very well from this. I felt like I was struggling to get over this cough even more so because of what I'd been through in New Zealand a couple of weeks before. It was just the really run down feeling, not able to, no energy. And when I did finally get back to training in South Africa, just felt completely burnt out and just couldn't do it, was exhausted. And I'd need to go home and build up from a lot lower level, when you're trying to go in and do everything that everyone else is doing, and it just wasn't happening. So I think it was about building from a lower level, really building up that base again of my fitness and my health, and then kind of progress towards the Sri Lanka series, which was going to be in March. For what I now know about sepsis, it was trying to play in a international cricket tour and take a full part and just sort of brush it under the carpet like it never happened. And I think that was obviously wrong Probably took the best part of 3 months to probably get back to kind of where I needed to be. No one mentioned post-sepsis syndrome to me. I was comparing to where I'd been, where I don't want to go to sleep here because I might not wake up. You know, everything after that felt really good. You kind of maybe lose what is feeling 100%, you know, actually you feel way better than where you were, but there is definitely going to be a time period afterwards where you need to kind of just again kind of listen to your body and take that time to really kind of let your body recover from what it's been through, I guess. Making sure people know what it is, I guess, and know that to sort of look out for the signs. I guess if you're not feeling good and there's any part of you that's unsure about, oh, could it be, then just go and check. I think the thing that Crohn's has taught me is to really listen to my body and work with it rather than fight against it. Better to kind of go and make sure and you don't have it than not make sure and you do. Yeah, I've done a little bit of work with the sepsis lead nurse at the local hospital, Musgrove. She emailed me recently actually to say that it made a real difference. I feel very lucky, I guess, to have been able to get through sepsis and I guess live to tell the story. Just encourage anyone who even thinks the tiniest amount that they might be suffering, just ask, could it be sepsis? The speed of which you go downhill, but actually the speed of how quickly you'll feel better if you get the right treatment. I found that amazing, was how bad I felt in my worst moment, but then how quickly I've realised I was going to be all right because I got the right treatment. So I think that's really important. Obviously, when you've been through something in your life, then you probably hear more of it than you did before. My dad actually had it last year as well. My dad complains about everything, so he was quite quick to get in there. Listening to both of us speak about it, he probably caught his a little bit earlier. I think that comes down to kind of what we're doing in our lives, very different. Like, Dad's retired. I was in the middle of a cricket tour playing for my country. I guess it's important for me to kind of share my experience with others. We're talking about something quite serious, so if it does save lives, then that sounds quite dramatic, but actually it probably isn't. You know, that is what you kind of we're talking about. It would be wrong of me not to kind of share my experience of sepsis. So yeah, that's why I wanted to do it.